Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's me, Jermaine, and I'm back with another episode of The Simple Truth. And I'm here to ask you one simple question. Are you going to take the chip? Well, if you don't understand what I'm talking about the RFID chip. The chip that is going to be a requirement as of 2014 within the Obamacare law, the healthcare law. Now, the Bible clearly says that there will be a mark that will be taken that no man will be able to buy or sell without this mark. Will you be caught up so much in your way of life that having this chip will be a requirement for you?
For every agent, miles of border.
Report warns of U.S. border vulnerability.
Exploited visas making a sieve of U.S. borders.
Fake IDs possibly sold to thousands. Biometrics.
U.S. expects 40% rise in visa biometric identification. Border traffic to triple by 2030. Officials bring safety to meet need. Air traffic security doubles.
Looking at what the government believes could be the fingerprint of a suspected terrorist taken from an undisclosed location overseas. 24 hours a day, government computers use a laptop. They may have used some other device. We may pick up fingerprints from a bomb frame. So far, more than 1,300 criminals and illegal immigrants have been caught using bogus identities.
We rely on biometrics, which are unique physical characteristics like fingerprints that are impossible to forge, to keep bad people out of the country while keeping travel fast and convenient for legitimate travel.
Confirming identity.
I want to share an article with you. This article comes from newscastmedia.com. Newscastmedia.com. It's an alternative news source. And you just saw a video that was presented by Homeland Security talking about biometrics. It is easy to see how the National Defense Authorization Act could at some point in the future be fused with the biometrics program, requiring travelers to get a RFID chip, which stands for radio frequency identification, with all the biometrics and personal information on it. Very controversial in nature, the RFID chip is small as a grain of rice and can be implanted on any part of the human body or stored in a card. The chip is then scanned to reveal the identity of its host. Even acts of identity theft will not go unchecked, whereby people assume false identities or break into other people's email accounts, bank accounts, or credit card records and impersonate the real owner of the email account or bank account in order to commit crimes by compromising or manipulating data that belongs to the true owner of the account. The video you just saw shows you that identity theft is one of the fastest growing and most committed crimes that the federal government is battling and is handled by the Justice Department, while the newly signed NDAA will be handled directly by the U.S. military. We can only speculate how much latitude future presidents will have in interpreting the new law or implementing biometrics to complete it. Mandatory RFID chip for all Americans with biometrics by 2014. Almost 4 months ago, I reported that we will soon see biometric technology implemented, which will affect the way electronic information is handled. And now it has been confirmed by the National Journal that pilots' unions have entered into what is described as high-level and sensitive talks with the Obama administration officials to implement a system under which pilots would use a card containing biometric information. However, this will not just apply to pilots. It will eventually apply to everyone as demonstrated in the video that we showed you earlier. You can now kiss your privacy goodbye because biometrics contain the most personal information that nature uniquely assigns each individual. We should also expect them to roll out the RFID chip, the radio frequency identification chip that has been already developed. By 2014, all Americans will be required to have electronic health records, EHR, which will include their height, weight, and body mass index, BMI. This is part of the healthcare bill that Obama recently signed. Most people call it Obamacare. And the Department of Health and Human Services has finally finished tying all the loose ends. U.S. Health and Human Service Secretary Kathleen Celebus said this will push our entire healthcare system forward, as she compared the advent of electronic health records to electronic banking. Health information technology promises to bring that same transformation, convenience, and reliability to the healthcare system, she said. The Obama administration warned that healthcare providers, including doctors and hospitals, must establish meaningful use of EHRs by 2014 in order to qualify for federal subsidies. If they do not comply, they will risk getting penalized in the form of diminished Medicare and Medicaid payments. Under the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health, the HITTECH Act of 2009, eligible healthcare professionals and hospitals can qualify for Medicare and Medicaid incentive payments when they adopt certified EHR technology. To give you a little insight into how this works, is everybody will be issued a national healthcare ID, and this card will be embedded with an RFID, or radio frequency identification chip, in it. Rather than get a card, some could choose to have the chip implanted in their body, perhaps the wrist, shoulder, or wherever the recipient feels comfortable with it. This chip will have all your biometric information in it, like fingerprints, face recognition, iris recognition, and so forth. Its purpose is to tie together your health records, bank records, financial records, credit history, criminal history, and can track your movements throughout the country, just in case you attempt to hide from the government. Now, I'm not finished with the article, but that right there, ladies and gentlemen, sounds scary. They want to be able to know at any given time where you are, what you're doing, what you've done, how you spend. If that doesn't sound alarming to you, something is definitely wrong. The government says the reason the RFID chip will have all this information is to pre-qualify you who can afford what type of health services. In essence, only the chip is scanned and it is deemed that you have enough money in your bank account to cover medical treatment. You won't have to wait in line. If you don't have the money, they can instantly pull your credit file using the chip and determine how much credit to extend to you and to what interest rate, just like they determine the amount of student loans when you file electronically. The whole purpose is to move us into a cashless society. Currently, the United States dollar is the most widely held reserve currency in the world. That's going to change very soon as well. However, China, Russia, and the UN are huge advocates of moving from the dollar and replacing it with the SDR, special drawing rights. The Chinese have become dissatisfied with the primacy of the U.S. currency, which they say has led to increasingly frequent international financial crises. In a speech issued in both English and Chinese, Zhao Exshan, I know I said that incorrectly, governor of the People's Bank of China, said, "The role of the SDR has not been put in full play due to limitations on its allocation and the scope of its uses. However, it serves as the light in the tunnel for the reform of the international monetary system." Even though Zhao did not refer directly to the dollar, everyone who heard the speech knew exactly what his subliminal message was. The desirable goal of reforming the international monetary system, therefore, is to create an international reserve currency that is disconnected from the individual nations and is able to remain stable in the long run, thus removing the inherent deficiencies caused by using credit-based national currencies. In this coming cashless society, you won't have to send in your 1040 EZ forms to file taxes because the government will automatically withdraw taxes from your account using the trackable chip. If you refuse to comply, they can simply turn off your chip and you won't be able to buy or sell. Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? You won't be able to buy or sell. Does that sound familiar? Since all transactions will be electronic, retailers will also discourage consumers from using cash by slapping them with surcharges. You already see it happening with banks where if you choose to use direct deposit, go cashless, they eliminate monthly fees from your account. But if you insist on depositing physical checks or cash, they charge you fees. This is just the beginning. The whole thing has been staged. So while on the surface this looks like it will just be used for electronic health records or airport security, it will permeate every area of your life. This will then give big government more power to control the multitudes of uninformed people. Well, the question has to be, how will this chip be implanted into those that choose to take the chip?
So before the team implant an RFID tag into an unlucky volunteer and scan them with an MRI to see if the implant explodes, let's find out more about this new and booming technology from expert Ron Godovic.
Radio frequency ID is a technology that uses a reader that sends out a signal to a tag, and that tag actually reacts to that reader and sends back information about whatever the tag is on.
So an object or mythbuster that you want to identify is stuck with an RFID tag, which contains a microchip and antenna. Then, using radio waves, a reader can remotely detect and retrieve the information on the chip.
People are having these implanted in them?
Well, there has been several case studies now where there's a few hundred people out there who have had RFIDs implanted in them that will allow medical professionals to read information on their health.
Cue Tori Belleci, MD.
Can you prepare the patient?
And his able assistant, Nurse Imahara.
Marking pen?
Marking pen.
Iodine swab.
Iodine swab.
Syringe.
Syringe.
The RFID tag to be inserted in Porky the unfortunate pig.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to insert the chip.
Comes from VeriChip, a company on the cutting edge of these human implants.
Searching for chip, and we got it.
Hey, we found it.
You know, this is my first surgery ever, and I feel like it went pretty well. I didn't even go to med school either. All we have to do now is take it to the MRI and see if this thing explodes or gets ripped out of the skin.
Carrie, having recently injured her knee, which required an MRI scan, has found the perfect location for this test, 3T MRI, where Dr. Priest is allowing the team access to a state-of-the-art MRI scanner. And with Porky the Pig in position, this is the moment of truth.
See that black spot in the middle?
That's the chip.
Will the RFID tag explode or be ripped out by the MRI's massive magnet? Or will it be the myth that's busted?
This Porky's been in there for about 10 minutes. I haven't seen any movement, and there definitely wasn't an explosion.
With no sign of the ham going blam, the conclusion is obvious.
I could see how someone would think that if you have this RFID chip and you subject it to a strong electromagnetic field where it says no loose metal objects, that someone would think maybe it would explode. It's a glass capsule the size of a grain of rice, and it does contain metal. We've done the test. No explosion and no ripping out. Hey!
And it works.
Found it.
All right. Didn't damage it.
The chip came through unscathed, but the guys aren't ready to call it just yet.
In order to test this right, we need to put it in a real person to see if there's any movement, if the person feels any movement or they feel any heat.
Yeah, got a point.
Any takers?
Dr. Belleci and Nurse Imahara chickened out, so it's all down to Carrie. After the anesthetic is administered, Dr. Priest inserts the RFID tag. With this implant, medical personnel will be able to remotely access Carrie's healthcare history.
I feel so sci-fi.
But will that history include an arm lost in a science experiment? 2 days later, Carrie's arm is healed.
All right, blow me up, Doc.
And back at 3T MRI, Tori is predicting he'll soon have a one-armed collie.
So we're back. We have Carrie's chip implanted. Now we're going to stick her in the MRI, and we're going to see what's going to happen. My feeling is it's probably going to explode, and she's going to lose her arm. I can't wait to see that.
Despite Tori's concerns, Carrie is soon prepped and ready.
Bye, Carrie.
And with the scan underway, Grant gets on the intercom to see how it's going.
Do you feel anything in your arm?
I'm trying to concentrate on that. I don't feel any movement.
And that's the nail in the coffin of this myth. Carrie emerges with 2 arms and the chip still in place and in working order.
All right, sci-fi girl. How do you feel about this myth?
I think it's busted.
I agree, it's busted. An MRI is not going to cause your RFID implant to explode.
Mind you, we did use RFIDs that were made for human implantation. If you were crazy enough to cut the one out of your credit card and possibly implant it, maybe it would work then.
You know what, though? There's a lot of conspiracy theories around these RFIDs. Like, can you steal someone's credit card information? Can you track people? I mean, we should test these, too.
Look, I think we're already on enough government watch lists. Let's just let this one go.
I think I agree.
Ladies and gentlemen, the simple truth is, when you don't know your rights, you don't have any. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, that you pay attention to what is going on and that you not let what is perceived to be convenience cause you to be put into a situation that will permanently damn your soul. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the simple truth. And as I always tell you, the simple things are oftentimes the most profound, but yet they are the most difficult to put into practice and to actually do. I want to thank you, and I'll be back with you real soon.